Okay. So I'm so grateful for you, Bree, to have you in this conversation. We met some months ago in Sweden when you were here, and we had a brilliant conversation then as well. And after that, you've really been on my mind, and I had this deep inquiry that I wanted to explore with you, and I wanted to like specifically explore it with you because there's something in our conversation. It's just the level of conversation and to being able to hold the different levels and to speak about philosophy but doing it from like an embodied feminine place, like I find really rare, and that's what I've really cherished in our conversations. Yeah, so we had a Zoom call like 3 weeks ago where we clarified the inquiry for what we wanted to talk about. And I have like written a short text with a kind of foundational inquiry that I have, and I want to read that so we can start from there.
Yeah, that sounds great. I just want to say too, yeah, I said it to you before we started recording, but I'll say it again. It feels like when we met in Sweden, um, immediately it just felt so easy to talk to you.
Mm.
And that's so rare for me to meet somebody that I feel like I can just have a back and forth dialogue with that feels so easy and fluent and generative.
Mm.
So I'm really excited to have today's conversation too.
Okay. Yeah. So like a recap of what we've been talking about, but also then my inquiry, but with some important background. So um yeah, so this is what I've written. Both the feminine and the masculine have been distorted in our world. There was a huge split in our collective psyche around 2000 years ago, separating us from the feminine, from the true erotic, and from Eros, a rejection of the feminine and of nature. It's this deep Madonna whore split in the Western religion and society that has made everything powerful about the feminine, our Eros, primal power, and mystic wisdom, into evil, the witch and the whore, leaving only the virginal maiden or the timid, loving mother. Since feminine Eros calls in the masculine, this split has also deeply distorted the masculine. And we could speak deeper to these distortions, but just acknowledging them for now, what I'm most interested in is a frame and a feminine calling in of the masculine that is true and helpful. Even though I see huge distortions in the feminine and in the masculine in the world today, I come across very few frames or calls from women to the masculine that I find actually true and helpful. Most teachers and thinkers who acknowledge the split from the feminine and who are leaning into bringing back feminine true power and bringing back Eros struggle to acknowledge what I see as the true nature of the masculine. Because this split that happened was, in a sense, an inevitable and natural one, a split that will and should happen in the healthy maturation process of individual humans and of humanity as a collective species. Core to the masculine's maturation process is to separate from the safety and comfort of the mother and go out on a heroic journey to find his own, and I really like this word that you used in the last conversation, to find his own signature, to discover how he can contribute to his people. This journey is guided mainly by elder men and fueled by the eros of elder women. And if and when he succeeds in this separation from the mother and matures into manhood, he will then be able to return to the feminine, but as an adult man dancing with the erotic and powerful feminine, not as a boy relating to mother. The split or individuation route, which we chose as a species, especially in the West, has led to deep distortion because it became a complete rejection of the feminine rather than a maturation process in service of life, returning to the feminine in a powerful, mature dance. In its pure form, this separation from the mother and the feminine is the drive to become a better man, to contribute and provide with ever greater power. For humans, this has meant creating increasingly advanced technologies that enable the masculine to contribute and provide more and more effectively. This drive for improvement is utterly natural. Technological advancement is therefore simply an inevitable part of evolution. It's not good or bad in itself. It can be created in service from a lion-hearted masculine or from an ego-driven masculine, which can make it creative or distorted, but the drive for advancement itself is just natural evolution, inevitable and ultimately arising from a natural impulse in the masculine. What we now do have to acknowledge is this. The technology that partly has come from a distorted derivation of masculine, but also just from a pure one, has become so powerful that it is godlike. The Great Mother is the process, the ever return of the same, and inevitably where we all will go back to at death. But feminine Eros fuels the masculine's natural drive for individuation from the mother, and this creates the event, that which creates development, breaking the cycle of the ever return of the same. So technology is an event, and we have created technology so powerful that it itself is speeding up the eventification of the human worldview and of society. So when I hear teachers and philosophers advocating for bringing back ancient feminine wisdom, with the truth that the deepest spiritual realm is the goddess, Eros, and the masculine represents an equal but more human consort, this dynamic is no longer advocate. Because this masculine drive for maturation, pure and natural, has resulted in technology that has now made the masculine equally powerful to the goddess. So just as the goddess can metaphysically tap into the mycelium of internet, or of everything, so can the internet. And just as Kali can metaphysically destroy all life, so can the atom bomb. So this naive stance of feminine worship, which fails to truly acknowledge the masculine, is neither true nor helpful, and I think it's dangerous. What is needed is a frame and an invitation towards the masculine that comes from the pure, powerful feminine. A call that acknowledged the natural and necessary separation from the mother and the feminine that the healthy masculine needs, and acknowledging the technology creation that has come from that drive, while still meeting him in the powerful feminine on the other side of that maturation. So calling him back into realignment in service of his people and therefore in service of feminine and of life, but not calling him back to this ancient wisdom before technology, where we're refusing to acknowledge, or at worst trying to shut down the godlike power of technology that we have created through masculine and through Eros. A power that is not inherently good, not inherently bad, but evolutionary inevitable. What we need are women who, instead of trying to shut down the masculine and then inevitable technological development, level up their own feminine power and stand in a frame and a call that fully acknowledges the godlike power the masculine now carries through technology, so that we can call men into, together with us, to take the immense responsibility required to steward it. And I find almost no women having the conversation at this level, and I would love to have the conversation with you here. So apart from like digging deeper into all the stuff that I said now, my main inquiry is around this. Like, what does this frame and call to the masculine from Eros really look like that is needed now in our times?
I mean, just give me that, right? I think there's one thing I want to say leading into that, because I think that part of the difficulty that we're in is that we're having conversations from very different frames all the time.
Yep.
And and so from one frame, things look a certain way, and from another frame, things look a different way. And what I think you're speaking to in what you just read and what we talked about in our last call is really what I call correcting the orders of creation.
Yep.
And what we have been, which is different than relational existence, which is about whether or not we like each other or agree with each other. The
Yep.
energetics of something is not the same as the personality of something.
Yep.
And so I think we're getting these two conversations very mixed up. The trauma and the personality and the impact that people have experienced because of the way evolution has gotten all kind of tied up with colonization and rape and the malignant body. But also, I think because of the way that we are not looking at the energetics, we're looking at the personality structure.
Hmm.
And so when you're saying this last piece that you were just reading, those last couple of paragraphs, what I'm really hearing is this is about, and I talk about this, is about correcting the energetics.
Yeah.
How do we move forward by just kind of bringing in more compensatory mechanisms for the fact that the energetics are out of order? We
Yeah.
shouldn't. We should be clearing the things that are compensatory so that it can reveal and you can see the way the order has become off. Does
Yep.
that mean, as you're saying, does that mean returning to the dark ages and saying we have to worship the goddess in this way now and give up AI and all technology? No, that's stupid. We're here. Evolution has continued. It's
Yep.
not that evolution has stopped and no one's been evolving. It's that it's moving forward in this very haphazard, discontinuous, kind of not whole or coherent way.
Yep.
And so, what you're speaking to in some ways is how do we erect feminine power in a way that is coherent with the energetics and can hold that feminine frequency, and really when it is erect that way, the masculine shows up in response to it. But what
Yep.
you have to do is refuse the masculine signals that show up that are actually just trying to take the feminine off of her throne.
Yep.
Right? You have to say no to the
Yep.
things that are actually what I call the compensatory versions of it,
Yep.
or the ones that are there to say, "Oh, you'll accept this, or you'll accept this, or this will be good enough." But
Yep.
because we've been in such scarcity for so long, which we're calling that scarcity trauma,
Yep.
I like to reduce that word trauma to scarcity because we've been in so much scarcity, when any old masculine comes across, we're like, there's the masculine. And then we want to give it away to him.
Yep.
And in many ways, this is just a replay of the patriarchal grid of how it has told both the men and the women,
Yep.
to be in conversation around scarcity and around dependency
Yep.
rather than around individuation and ownership and declaration.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And like in my own life, this has been so powerful. Like, you know, I was deep part of different philosophical worlds and personal development and societal development, and when I had my own Eros awakening and came into my feminine power, it became so clear like how so much of it is this compensatory strategies that you're talking about. And
Yeah.
actually, like when I just embodied my feminine that way, I
Yes.
could meet a man who had done zero work, who had
Yes.
didn't know any of this, and I could feel that
This is
pure
it.
masculine energy.
This is
Um,
it.
so there's and this is what I think I meant in the beginning, that like there's so few people talking about philosophy and these bigger picture things that actually understand these energetics
Yes.
and have experienced them in their
Yes.
body as a woman.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
so that's one thing I wanted to speak to, and then you talked about, to say no to the masculine, distorted masculine, that's not helpful. It's like, and say no to the distorted feminine. Like
Yes.
there's so much of that as well. And I also think like what I find really fascinating is so few people talking about, that I was like trying to get to in my piece, is this godlike, evolution. Like you said, like evolution has been severely distorted in one sense, and it has continued in another sense. Um,
Yes.
and there is an inevitable, progression where our masculine side, which is this drive to create, away, it is a drive away from the feminine in a sense. So this
Yes.
technological drive is a drive away from the feminine, but when the feminine, the masculine energetics works, there is this returning back to the feminine
Yes.
when we have separated. And now it's almost like we have this technology that's only away from the feminine. There's no
Yes.
reconnection back, but
Yes.
everybody who's talking about the reconnection back is also bashing on the drive away from the
Yes.
feminine, which is actually a really healthy drive. Um, and it's like, and that drive is creating technology that's becoming more and more powerful, so it is actually shifting the energetics of the feminine and the masculine at
Totally.
its core, it,
Totally.
in a way that is, like natural in a sense. Like it's not good or bad. Like I don't think anything about it, but it's happening. Like and it will happen. So I
Yeah.
want to have the conversation about, like, okay, this is the core energetics and archetypes of the feminine, the masculine, and then we have technology on top of that, which is a part of human nature, of how the masculine pulls away from the feminine, and which is natural, and that's happened, and that pulling away has now become so powerful, that it's shifted the but people are just so stuck in the mess of the mess, like that nobody can have that conversation. And I'm like, this is the conversation that is, yeah, that is needed.
Yeah, as I'm listening to you, a couple of things are coming up for me. Like there's so many different angles of what you're speaking to that I feel like we could go in so many different directions. And I'm really often listening and then pulled to kind of like find the central nexus of it. And I think there's a central nexus here that I often return to when I teach and in my work that I feel now as we're sitting here too, which is that um, you can't, well, there's two things I want to say. You can't resolve the energetic difficulties through psychology.
Yeah,
You can't. You
cannot.
cannot resolve them through interpretation. You
Nope.
cannot resolve them through negotiation.
Yep.
It is a different, it's an entirely different realm.
Yep.
And I feel that part of what's happening is we're holding this collective tension around, to me, not just the masculine and feminine, but underneath it about what gets to define creation.
Yep.
And to me, um, we are trying to still define creation through a human lens.
Yep.
We are trying to define creation through a godlike domination over nature.
Yep.
Our language speaks to it, our energy speaks to it. Many people have massive erotic awakenings and they're still using that to
Yep.
dominate nature.
Yep.
And it is the accepted kind of conversation, right? This is part and parlance of our relational frame.
Yep.
And for me, this is a big, big problem
Yep.
because what it's doing is just muddying the waters and confusing the fuck out of the problem
Yep.
and still leaving nature in complete absence.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I mean that in my own body. I
Yep.
mean, when I say nature, I don't mean out there, the tree I'm looking at.
No,
I
it's
mean
all
in my
nature.
damn body. In my damn body. I don't want to have another conversation with another person who's trying to take my energetics and interpret it through a channel of psychological trauma informed interpretation. And I can go there in a different conversation, but the reality is all of it is leaving my erotic that is
Yes.
here to
Yes.
create in this electric generative way, fucking alone in the corner.
Yes.
And I think this is the problem, is that we keep abandoning our nature.
Yes.
We keep
Yes.
abandoning our nature,
Yeah.
even when we're talking about not self-abandoning. We're
Yeah.
having a 6-hour recorded conversation about self-abandonment and
Yeah.
our healing and our this and our that. And meanwhile, our nature is sitting in the corner, masturbating, dying to be called on the carpet and saying, just let me be the fucking crazy ass person that I am.
Yeah.
Because that nature is not containable. It's absolute not going to behave well. It's not going to follow the rules. It's going to do things exactly according to its order, its level of creation, its spark, its signature. We have no place for that in our culture.
Yeah.
And this to me is the problem.
Yeah. And like, yes, oh, I resonated with so much of what you say. I loved what you say, that it can't be resolved through psychology. And this was exactly my experience when I had my own erotic awakening, when I came back to my nature, to my body, to my eros. So much of what I've been trying to work on through all these different tools just was you know,
Useless.
useless. And yeah, so I mean, that's my mission, to bring women back to that place. But but I want to speak to what you said. It's like it's becoming. I mean, one way of looking at it is I really see this split that I talked about in the text. That this split was leaving this nature, leaving eros, leaving this, and with the idea that we could dominate nature, that we could dominate eros, like, and that idea is fucking shit.
Yeah.
And it's created so much distortion and everything, and it is shit. And we have to realize that within a natural worldview, or like there is a way of looking at it where, again, and I may be repeating myself, but there is a moving away from the great mother, a moving away from the feminine, um, that now has created, this is the paradox, that now has created a technology like that actually can
Yeah.
dominate nature, and that actually can
Mhm.
like in one sense it's because it is so true that we never will be able to dominate nature, um, that it's even more important to understand how deeply powerful technology is,
Yes.
because we need, it's like, no, we should not put ourselves above Eros and above nature. But there is part of it that, like, in a sense, yes, we need to understand that we now have put ourselves in a position
Where
where
we can.
where we can.
Yeah. And how
Uh,
dangerous that is.
how dangerous that is.
We've just moved into Stephen Hawking territory.
Yes, and but there's an invitation here towards the
Yeah.
masculine, that it is, yes, move away from the feminine, move away from the great mother. Yes, create technology and do it in serve, like with it's like not pulling out, throwing out the baby in the bathwater in either case of either saying, yeah, it's like it is true about this split, but it is also true that that's just natural, and holding both those perspectives at the same, so that we can invite the masculine in a way, and say that, like, reconnect them to the true energetics, and understand that we've created something so powerful that is actually impacting the energetics, so the masculine needs to step up and take responsibility for that. How are we holding technology? How are we holding AI? What are we using it for? Yeah.
Herein, I mean, in everything you're saying in this part, herein to me lies the biggest difficulty, which is that I think whether we're talking about technology or whether we're talking about interpersonal relationship, the question that is on the table is what is the motivation? What is the motivation for what we're calling the masculine, which is not men, right? This is the energy that we carry in all gendered bodies. This is not a gender thing. Um, what is the invitation that it is what we'll call it back? Because I think in the last 20 years of working as a family therapist, this conversation has come up 10,000 times. And it has come up in the context of addictive family systems. So, in an addictive family system, which is what I call the world at the moment, and what to me we're speaking about here, the individuation journey is hampered by dependency. And because it's hampered by dependency, the family itself, through multiple generations, does what I call walks with a limp, which means that if 3 generations back, there was not the ability to fully individuate, to fully, and then return, there's a kind of glitch in the history in that family, and everybody is moving into compensation around that conversation that never fully resolved. And each generation will tackle it in a different way. But when this is the case, what will often happen is there's a player in the system who has decided that they don't need to participate in this individuation journey. They're outside of it. They can stay outside of it, essentially, because we have a culture that allows them to get their erotic needs met outside of that family system unit sufficiently enough where there's no motivation for them to enter it and be part of the process that is not finished. And to me, this is a fractal example of the exact same thing that you're asking,
Yeah.
which is, where is the motivation? Well, the motivation is always in the erotic, right? The motivation is always inherently with us.
Yeah.
There's a sincere part of every one of us that wants to right the orders of creation in all of us, to be held in the proper places, to be honest and in integrity in all of our relations.
Yeah.
And we live in a culture in which it is very easy to escape that process.
Yeah.
And we are making it even easier with technology. And I think that's
Yeah.
exactly what you're speaking to.
Yeah.
And so it's what we said in the last conversation. We're at this massive critical crossroads
Yeah.
about whether we're going to take this thing on, or whether we are going to go in a direction where we develop the technology that allows us to bypass it
Yeah.
so completely that we lose our humanity.
Yeah.
And I think we are strongly, strongly in danger of losing our humanity.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And this was what you're talking about. This like putting yourself out of the family system, where you're ejecting yourself. This is like the basis of the like Abrahamic religions, of saying like we don't need to be in Eros, we don't need to be in relation with the powerful feminine, we don't
That's right.
need to mature as adults, and have this maturation process away from the mother, so we then can meet the true Eros of the feminine and true aliveness. Rather, we can say that there's a male god and we can be God's children, and we don't have to do
Exactly.
this maturation.
That's right.
The whole culture is built on this escape. It's like this guilty pleasure of humankind of not having to actually be a mature, alive adult and be with Eros. We
That's
can
right.
just be God's children. So
That's right.
that's one thing. And before these religions and this very seducing, weak story of what it is to be human, that we don't need to be in relation with Eros, and we don't need to be in our individual power, we can just stay with Mother Mary and be held like kids, which is a very seducing story, but it's a very weak story,
And a very incomplete one.
and a very incomplete one. uh,
Yes.
but even and I've talked about this, philosopher Bard and Söderqvist have written these books where they tell like really deep, fascinating stories, where they tell the story that like this is what the Abrahamic religions did, and mostly Christianity and Islam. But that there are religions prior to this that didn't make this move of suppressing Eros.
Yes.
But even in these religions, it was also true that it was the elders and the wise who understood this. Like most people are still in this maturation process and cannot meet the feminine, cannot meet like the true alive Eros. So I think this is also a naive I see, where very few people understand that it's not the work that we're talking about. It's maybe not mainstream, but if we don't have elders who are
Yeah.
working from this place, then we're
Yeah.
fucked. And this is what the Abrahamic religions did. They removed that tantric realm. They removed that realm of the feminine Eros, of the deep wisdom, and said that everybody can access this,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
not true.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so that's there, and then we have. Yeah, and then we have the technology kind of fuel, like it's like we can choose, can technology keep fueling this glitch, this distorted story,
Yes.
and just make us into, just screen scrolling addicts who could become even more of God's children, will become children of AI, or
Yes.
or can we find sufficient enough of wise men and women who can, create another story, another frame that invites people to actually grow up and meet Eros for
Yeah.
real?
Yeah.
And again, everybody won't be the leaders of this, but everybody, and I think you said it so powerfully last time we spoke, that, or you said this now as well, people want that. If you
Yes.
give them the option of
Yes.
saying yes to Eros, people
Yes.
will, I mean, some people are really, really traumatized and really can't see
Yes.
it, but most people
Yes.
want this other story. They don't
Yes.
want to become screen addicts.
No. 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 I mean, there's so much in what you just said, and I'm super appreciating the eloquence with which you just framed all of that. And Yeah. Yes. It's everything. It's
Yeah,
everything. It's
yeah,
everything. This is where we are. And when you were just speaking to this piece of, I'm trying to remember now exactly what you said that flagged something for me about, yeah, I remember now. When you were saying, when it was written out of the conversation in the Abrahamic religions, the erotic and the individuation process of finding power, right? This is, if you talk to any indigenous person, this is, your vision quest. This is your place of leaving home and finding yourself. These are all of the rites of passage that have been, born into every major journey that is archetypal throughout humanity. But when we sanitized those journeys, when we took the erotic out of them and we sanitized them, we built a culture based on sanitization. And that culture based on sanitization is not just that we took the conversation out, but we made the conversation the enemy. And we made it forbidden. And in doing that, we have expensed the actual, what I call movement of existence. We have expensed the natural way that the rhythms of nature would correct the imbalance, would right the wrong, that we wouldn't have to talk about it or like interpret it or psychologize about it, because the nature of it would have the seasons around it and it would be corrected. But we have dominated that and exiled that so completely. And let me tell you, people talk about this all the time in relationship to porn, right? This is a common kind of masculine, feminine, patriarchal conversation around porn. But where I find that this part of the conversation is missing and is my area of specialty is around eating disorders.
yeah,
This is exactly what anorexia is about.
yeah, yeah,
And so we have given birth to these cultural large bodies of chronic conditions through sanitizing our own nature.
yeah,
And then when teachers like me or like you or the few others that are out there, and there's not that many, but when they come out and they speak this, the world has a reaction to it.
yeah,
It is really a problem that we have made the enemy of our savior.
yeah, yeah,
It's crazy. It's crazy.
yeah,
When I just want to say this last piece because it tags into it. So, a number of years ago, I was friendly with a person who had spent some time with indigenous folks here in the US. And he and I were in dialogue, and things were starting to shift in the world. I want to say this is maybe 6 or 7 years ago now. And I was starting to kind of see where things were going. And I said to him, isn't it so ironic that the technology that we need to save us is the technology that the native people know in their bodies? It is the technology that has been tried to be taken out of them, but that they know in the fabric of their history. So the people that we have exiled are now the teachings that we need. And I feel like that is exactly what this is about. And it does not mean we're not having a conversation about AI being bad. If
yeah,
you walk away from this fucking conversation, and I'm pre-warning it, I'm
yeah.
prophylactically saying it, we don't think men are bad. We love men. And we think AI is just fine.
Yeah, because I think this is the thing that I want to clarify that was coming up, and it's a great bridge into what was being called of me to say in this, is that I 100% agree. the indigenous cultures that have not have this split that I talked about the feminine, but that they have this wisdom, they have these rite of passages, they have this not the like the natural, not sanitized version of being a human, that and all of this. So all of this is true, but I find so many teachers and people who start to reckon, who maybe have their own Eros awakeners, who start to recognize this, and then they're like, okay, so we need to listen to the indigenous people. But what the indigenous people don't have is the concept of what Bart and Sardekvist, for example, calls the event. And what
Yeah.
the event is this masculine drive to separate from the mother, fueled by Eros, fueled by a connection with feminine, but it is still a separation from the cyclical of what have always been, to create something new that
Yeah.
will contribute even more to the tribe.
Yeah.
So this is natural, but the indigenous people aren't aware of this because they haven't or the indigenous wisdom is pre-event, the pre-human ability to create powerful technology that actually changes how the cycles work. So this is what I want, a conversation where it's like, yes, there is a back going, there is something completely fucked with this sanitized world that we live in. So there is a back to something primal, Eros, this Ra, and included in that there is a natural process of technology. We have had so much event that we've now created technology that enhances the eventification
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
itself. So
Mm-hmm.
we have created God.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have done
Mm-hmm.
what the Abrahamic religions said existed,
Mm-hmm.
2,000 years ago, when it actually didn't exist. But now it actually does exist. There is a
Mm-hmm.
masculine God, and it's called the internet. It's called technology. It's called the atom bomb. And there is this masculine, yeah, that it won't work to just go back to this indigenous wisdom idea without acknowledging that we have created this godlike, so the spirituality and the religion and the worldview and the frame that we needs to acknowledge that, like, ultimately everything is in service of this natural of life force, everything. And we now have a super powerful godlike masculine, and there's a new dance now between
Yes.
the godlike masculine power and the original feminine, and to figure out that dance.
Yes. 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 Yeah. I mean, two things come up for me. I mean, I always feel I never use the word go back. And I think it's because I feel like first of all, there is no back, right? Time is all now.
Yes.
And I feel like that technology is always here. It's never not been here. It has to do with how we perceive here and what lens, how we're perceiving life itself. And I think I don't want to go too far down this path because this could be a whole other really good conversation for us, which is that, like, when you do have an entrance point or an awakening into the erotic, your perception is part of what gets changed. It's not just selfhood that changes, but it's perception,
Yeah.
because the physics change,
Yeah.
your literal physics
Yes.
change.
Yeah.
And this is again a whole other
Yeah.
conversation that would be really fun to have.
Yeah. Yes.
But I think this is key, and I'm including it here because I think that people are trying to speak to a shift without having had the physics change.
Yes.
And so they're using their intellect.
Yes.
And so for people like me, and I know also like you, because we talked about this, so I don't want to pull you into something that isn't true, but we talked about this. You can feel it immediately. You know it immediately. When somebody has digested or metabolized the
Yes.
erotic, there
Yeah.
is no finished with that, right? But when they have gone through the initial digestion process
Yeah.
and then the middle layers of that,
Yeah.
there's a kind of coherence of the way the erotic runs through them.
Yeah.
And their expression is all different. Yours looks different than mine.
Yes.
But there's a way that power equalizes.
Yeah.
And when you're in the room, so to speak, with another person who has done that process,
Yeah.
there is a lack of something. And I think this is key there's a lack of competition.
Yeah.
There is a lack of proving.
Yeah.
There is a lack of psychologizing and intellectualizing,
Yeah.
even though the intellect and the psychology can still be in the conversation,
Yeah.
but they are in the second position,
Yeah.
not the primary position.
Yeah.
The primary position is the lovemaking.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so the erotic seeks, when the erotic is digested, when it first is awakened, it will seek to make love to everything in a way that most people experience as like a crazy, I'm going to go fuck everybody, or I'm going to overeat, or I'm going to sell all my things and go spend all my money, whatever, which is fine. It's also part of the process, right? It's fine. But the integrated erotic seeks to love make at the deepest level. And it's discernment and selectivity around somebody or something that can show up erected to love make with it is very sharpened. And its job becomes sharpening that signal even more in itself so
Yeah.
that what meets it is equal. It's the counterpart to that. And when we are in that process, and to me this is what awakening is about, by the way, and to me this is what power is about. It's not about creating another empire, although you might do that, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's about the goddamn sex and the
Yes.
quality of the sex.
Yes.
And so we're having such wrong, mistaken conversations about this.
Yes. Oh, this is it, Bree. And I'm so glad you brought this in, because there's a fundamental shift of how you are in the world when you've had your Eros awakening toward this maturation of the erotic is the maturation. And
Yes.
this is exactly this maturation that the Abrahamic religions and other things deprived us of. And I love this. And this is exactly like, to have this conversation with you like from that place is completely different, and it's that's the only conversation I believe in, because to have this
Yes.
conversation with somebody who hasn't had that, they won't understand what I mean, and they won't be
Yes.
able to contribute. And it is the way through, like how to get this, as I talk about the godlike tech, how to get it in service. It can only be women who are matured in their eros that can call this in,
Yes.
from the masculine. And as you say, in when I'm embodied in that place and I meet the masculine, and we can talk about the gender stuff as well, but like I'm just using it gender now, then then the masculine wants, like, it's exactly what you say, like there's a natural leaning towards the masculine to meet that.
Totally. And no masculine. And in fact, in my experience, no male embodied, and I'm a cis white female. Although I don't think I'm that white. But anyway, but I am technically white. But in the men that I have met, what they're really attracted to is this.
Yes.
Everybody wants this. Who doesn't want integrated power? And it's not the kind of power that makes the world's problems go away. It's not the kind of power that saves you. This is so fucking ordinary. This
Yeah.
washes the dishes, this
Yeah.
power. It cherishes everything.
Yeah.
And this form of power is what I call love, because to me this is pure innocence. It's total unwritten love.
Yeah, and I love this what you said. I know you're talking about that it's ordinary, but also what you talked about, that it doesn't save you and it doesn't fix the world's problems, because that worldview that the world can be saved and that you can fix the problems is the fucking problem.
It's the problem. It's
Is
all
this
born from the wrong view.
is this split view that we can separate us from nature and Eros and the messy, and we can just go to Virgin Mother Mary and God can save us. Like that's not how reality works, and there is no harmony between the masculine and like it's always this constant tension and struggle.
That's right. Right.
being an adult woman and an adult man is fucking challenging and
Yeah.
exciting, and it makes you grow every fucking day, and you always have to be dancing with it. You can never just like check out. So this idea that this Eros will save the world, like, it's not that. it's
No.
it's it's what will align the world back into the creative tension of the universe. Yeah,
Yeah. We have many wrong conversations
yeah,
and many well-meaning wrong conversations. And to me, the place where it is the most concentrated is around power.
yeah,
Our understanding of power is completely fucked.
yeah,
And so when you come in talking about power, you're viewed through that frame and projection of the wrong view about power. And this is exactly what we've done to Eros. We've put it in the corner. We've sanitized a version, a westernized version outside of it that
yeah,
says this is the ideal. Aspire to this. I mean, this is what the body type looks like. This is, I mean, this is everything. This is everything. This is race. This is everything.
yeah,
But it's all about the fact that the erotic is a threat. And why is it a threat? Because first of all, it takes no prisoners, right? It takes no prisoners. It's incredibly voracious.
yeah,
It is unbelievably, unapologetically voracious. And that is deeply uncomfortable in a society that is about compartmentalization and boxes and rightness and virtue signaling, right? Doesn't work for any of that. And it's deeply unexpected,
yeah,
which means if you're truly close to it, you really can't plan the future.
yeah,
You can't. You have to live only now.
yeah,
And it requires you to be fluent
yeah,
in the way that you have people, don't have people,
yeah,
dance with certain places, don't dance with certain. You can't build a house
yeah,
in the field of the erotic. It's
yeah,
always going to get torn down.
yeah. And this is what I also find so important and so beautiful, like, or so important to have this perspective that, like, that is so true. And, that's called like the tantric realm, like, everything is chaos, like, there is no, and the masculine drive to create order so that we
Yeah.
can build society, so that we can have, so that the people who aren't ready to dance in this chaos can live and thrive in the tribe and everything. That is a pure intent. And
Yeah.
something deeply needed. So it is a move away from the feminine and from the erotic. In a sense, it's not really a move away from the erotic, but it's a move away from the chaos to serve, uh, knowing that ultimately whatever you're building is will die in the end. Like,
Yep.
it's a completely different frame from the masculine
Yes.
for the feminine, that is based on Eros and the erotic, but that's not taking away the fucking epic contribution of the masculine that is trying to build something sustainable and leave a legacy and all those things.
Totally, totally. And both are meant to be true. That's the
Yes,
paradox of this. You're not meant to resolve that paradox.
exactly.
They have
The unresolving is
different
the
and
life.
complementary intentions. This is the way they move back and forth. And I just have to throw in there, which I feel like this is another one of those hanging things I'm going to leave because it could be a whole other conversation, which is that the impotence to like denigrate men in our culture around trying to get them to honor the feminine through beating them into submission is just such a problem to
Yeah,
me. And I feel like there's this, you know, I feel it too. I know it too. There's an embodied rage around betrayal and denial
yeah,
that lives deep within us. Denial of what we deserve, denial of our right position,
yeah,
all of these things. But I don't think that we need to shame men into getting them to behave. This is all of the same origin.
yeah,
And to me, this is all about the seduction of the trauma conversation.
yeah.
And it is so seductive right
Yes.
now.
Yeah.
And in no way am I saying that we haven't all been impacted. There's impact there, but impact is not the same as a conversation around harm and victimization that then constantly keeps the same thing spinning.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's like we've gotten out of this distorted frame, but like we but we shouldn't go into a next distorted frame. I mean, like it's just
Yes.
there's yeah. And yeah,
It's
and it's
it's
seductive. I also it's fucking seductive. Like
it is.
we have to resist it every single day to not do that.
Yeah.
That's also about being an adult woman, to not give
Yes.
in to that seduction of denigrating men and yeah,
No, and about the ability to really hold all of this. I think that to me is the distillation,
yeah,
which is that the matured or elder viewpoint is the one that is not holding one position or another,
yeah,
but that holding the neutrality is coming from the energetic, not the personality.
yeah,
And that is a very different place. The
yeah,
lead of the neutral in the energetic, you
yeah,
can still have a reaction as a person, but where you're choosing from and discerning is in the energetic,
yeah,
not in your personality,
yeah,
because personal selfhood cannot tackle these problems. It's too
yeah,
big.
yeah, 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 yeah. And then it all also come back to that, like for women, we need to be in our bodies and we need to be in our eros to be able to do this. It's like fucking
Yes,
impossible to not get stuck in our personality if we're not ourselves stuck in um to and like it's like we won't be able to do it. And again, it's almost difficult to see, as we were talking about, since it is such a it changes everything in you. It's such a different state. You can't even see the masculine in that way if you haven't had that awakening.
that's right. That's right. That's right. I mean, there's a piece here too. I just want to throw this in, which is that there is this piece of scarcity that really is endemically present in our westernized society.
Yeah,
And so to build a life of fullness in the midst of a society that has othered the source of fullness,
yeah,
the
yes,
absolute source and
exactly.
wellspring of fullness,
Yeah,
and to be in your it, to live from the erotic, to be devoted to that, and to live from that means often going into a kind of starvation in this culture.
yeah,
And the demand of the erotic is actually that she's in pleasure,
yeah,
that she's the empress, she's meant for pleasure,
yeah,
and that the sources of pleasure are mostly entertainment,
yeah,
nature, right? They're not really found easily anymore in this kind of dialogue energetically.
yeah,
And so there's also that reality that is layered on all of this
yeah,
as at this particular time as we're facing this crossroads.
yeah.
It's not easy.
Maybe that's a good place to conclude this
For
time
part two.
for part two. Yeah, I can feel it in my body. Just the I don't even know what words to put, but like to have this conversation at this level. I really, really long to have more conversations with
Me
you, and
too.
also to find more people
I
who
know.
who can see that, like who have had, who can talk at this level and not, as you
I
like,
know.
not get stuck in these personality, the trauma trigger things, but actually like talk about the real thing.
I
Yeah,
know. It's been the thing that has been the hungriest in me
yeah,
for the last number of years. And I have been thinking about this with like this. I often say that my conversations are they're the missing conversations. They're the thing that's not being said, right? It's like all this noise is out there, but there's something in the center that wants to speak.
mm,
And I feel like that's this. It's speaking from that center. And it's not allowing all that noise to obstruct the center's conversation. And if there's anything I think that will change the world, it's that.
mm,
Truly. And it doesn't have to make big plans. It's just about it's about that. And it's about showing people. Like people feel it. I'm sure you experience this.
Yeah,
People feel you, right? People come to my work and the thing they say all the time is, I don't know what you're saying, but I felt something in my body.
yeah,
And I knew I needed to encounter it. They're
yeah,
not coming for what I'm saying, they're coming for what I bring.
yeah,
And the way I live with it,
yeah,
the way I never leave it,
yeah,
even under demand of annihilation, I never leave it.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and this is what the the feminine mystics have done for all of
forever.
forever, and were the ones that then were yeah, are the biggest threat to this false
That's right.
story, of course, as well. I mean, I'm not saying that from a place of victimhood or anything. I'm just saying
No,
that,
but it's totally true.
yeah,
It's absolutely true. I mean, that's how did we started our conversation this morning about what I was
yeah,
sharing about. Yeah, I mean, this
yeah,
is it. This is it.
yeah,
You're going to become Joan of Arc. You're going to become a fucking public signal. And
yeah.
when you become a public signal, there's going to be a lot of pushback. It's just the reality.
But the thing is, like, I mean, of course, I know I could, get like fucking killed or raped or anything. I don't want to be that. But like, as
Yeah.
long as it's just the public pushback, like the upside, or like for me, it's like there is no choice, because like
No,
I've seen what is possible, so I could never,
I know.
not do this. Like,
Girl, I know. I
and
felt it in you the
I could
moment
never
I
not do
met
it.
you.
And it's so fucking magical to
I
be
know.
in the world this way. Like,
I
it's
know.
so, like, to really meet people underneath, and to have and to experience the right relationship in the energetics of the feminine and the masculine, like, like, it's so, like,
It's
I
everything.
I can just have one experience of that, then everything is worth it. Like, it's
I
so,
know.
and it's like, yes, yes, like, we will, we become the Joan of Arc and everything, and get publicly attacked by it and stuff, but we also get to carry, when we experience it, I feel the longing of all of humanity,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I get to experience it for everyone else as well,
Yes.
like, it's like the intensity of that place is so fucking strong right now, because it's so
Yes.
suppressed. So the times I've been deep in there, like, it's there's nothing better in the
I
world.
know. I
Yeah,
know. I know. And I do feel, I could be wrong, but I do feel like at this time, this round of it, we've tried this over and over again, right? Like this is a wheel.
yeah,
And it's not like humanity hasn't been here in some form many times over. And again, I could be wrong. I hope I live to see whether I'm right or wrong in this lifetime, because I don't plan on redoing this wheel thing this way again. But um but I think something corrects this time.
mm,
And it's not because I'm hopeful. I really think there's an intersectionality now of timing,
yeah,
awakening,
yeah,
access to information,
exactly.
globalization, technology. I think it's all here to serve the
Yes, yes.
resolution of that thing, not to hamper it again.
But because, one thing, Brie, what I said is that now that we have created God, like the thing that we said was there to shove away from the feminine, we actually have created that now, which will take, what was that, the emperor's naked clothes, like, it will call bullshit on that old story of what
I
God
know.
was, because
I
now
know. It's going to
that
expose it.
it's going to expose it, because the
Yeah,
internet, like, is godlike, and it is that God that we have created, so it'll expose all this fake God bullshit, and
totally.
really bring out the true feminine as well. Like, there's such a massive, yeah, like, we can't stay with the bullshit now that we actually see the masculine God,
Yeah.
so,
And
so
it's going
that,
to take a minute. It's going to
Yeah.
take a minute for things to catch up. I mean,
Yeah.
what you're seeing in the world right now is huge exposés with no technical accountability.
Yeah.
But what I always talk about is both the force and the counterforce. And there's always a counterforce that may not be as visible, but that counterforce in any form of nature is rising to meet the force of annihilation. This
Yeah.
has never not been true. It's
Yeah.
never ever not going to be true. These are the energetics, and humans can only have so much agency over the energetics.
Yeah.
Why? Because the energetics are what they are, and you cannot annihilate what you are,
Yeah.
ever. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter how fucked up the path you take is. You can't destroy the thing that you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
too bad. I want to see it change in my lifetime because I do think it's possible. And I think the conditions are ripe for it. And
Yeah.
I think like this conversation and conversations like this are part of the cohering and the webbing of that interface of technology that is both ancient and new coming together, and the invisible webbing that calls it out and shows, more importantly, not just exposes what's wrong, but more importantly, shows another path.
Exactly.
Because
Shows
that's
another
it.
path. Exactly.
That's it. It's not good enough to just call it out and complain about it. I don't
No.
want to have that conversation. I
No.
had it. I had it many decades ago.
Yeah.
Now I'm interested in showing what's possible and a pathway and multiple pathways that people can say, I don't know what that is, but I want that and I'm going there because that expedites change faster than anything else.
I love that, Bree. I think that's a brilliant ending to this conversation and an invitation for part two. Like hell yes to that, showing what's
Yeah.
possible.
It's what we're here for. We're
Yeah.
not here to rehearse the old. We're
Mm,
here to create the new in this magnificence. And from a magnificence that is exactly what you just described. You wouldn't trade it for anything,
mm.
right? Who doesn't want to feel that level of aliveness? And it's possible
Yeah.
for everybody.
Yeah.
For everybody, no one is left out. This is your birthright.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess. Thank you so much for this
Thank
conversation,
you.
Bree. To be continued.
Thank you so much, Fanny.